Welcome to Civic History. Today, we will be discussing a possibly overrated or underrated figure in American history, President Chester Arthur. So first, why Chester Arthur? Because why not? Uh, I was inspired to make this video after there's been sort of this movement to increase I don't want to say like the notoriety of him, but the re-examining his legacy as president. So I thought, why not? I'll do a video on Chester Arthur. So, he was born in Fairfield, Vermont. There were conspiracies when he was vice president, chosen to be the vice president for the Republican ticket in 1880, and as president, that he was born in Ireland because his father was born in Ireland, William, or that he was somehow born in Canada because his father was serving as a minister and was traveling between Canada. However, uh, his mother was American, so it doesn't really matter because you get your citizenship from whatever parent is an American, as Ted Cruz can tell you. After being a good student through most of his primary education, he attended a small liberal arts college in New York, a Union College. He was at Psi Epsilon. He also was elected Phi Beta Kappa as fantastic student. In his spare time, while in college and afterwards, he served as a teacher in upstate New York and in other parts of the Midwest a little bit, where at one point he was teaching at the same college as future president James A. Garfield, who he would notably serve as the running mate for. Apparently, though, according to historians, they were both teaching at the same time, they never crossed paths. But who knows? He was also active in Whig clubs at Union College. He once got in a little row during the 1844 election with some Polk supporters, and allegedly there was a bit of a fight on campus. So, after graduating, he became a lawyer after serving as a teacher for a while. He's just a simple lawyer in New York at John Jay, the son of that John Jay's law firm. He met his wife Ellen around this time. He also joined the legal detachment of the New York State Militia. He was the Army's lawyer. And this was his house that he lived in Manhattan. It's still around. I think it's a bodega underneath there, maybe, and then a deli. But yeah, cool, right? I wonder if there's a little sign. Hey, this is Chester Arthur's house. He was also a bit of a civil rights champion. New York. This should be a GIF that's playing, but it's not. Oh. New York was a free state by the time Chester Arthur was a lawyer. He defended a series of slaves who traveled with their owner to New York City who claimed that they were free. Yeah. And won the state and won in the court of New York. The court agreed, yeah, you're in free soil, you're free people. He also was a lead attorney in the case representing Elizabeth Jennings Graham, who was denied a seat on a streetcar because she was black. And he won the case, leading to the desegregation of streetcars in New York. During the Civil War, as he was serving in the New York State Militia as their attorney, he was quickly promoted to brigadier general. Because Arthur showed a knack for massive organizing, and there was many Union troops flocking to New York, he was quickly made quartermaster general. He was so efficient at housing them, getting them foods. He was improved higher up in the New York Auxiliary Corps. He served on the staff of the governor's military matters. He was promoted by some troops to become a commander and given the rank of colonel, but he declined it and favored his role as brigadier general in the Auxiliary Corps. So after the war and during the war, Arthur indebted himself to the men of the machine of the New York Republican Party, being Seward, Thurlow Weed, and Rosalind Conklin. These men would be the key to the Republican Party's machine they built in New York. After the war, with President Grant in office, Arthur, by the recommendation of Conklin, was given the title and office of Collector of the Poor in New York. Now, originally he wanted to be naval surveyor of the Collector of Poor in New York, but this was the top job. He oversaw 20,000 employees. This was also the main place at this customs house where the United States got its tax revenue. Because this time there was no 16th Amendment, so the government couldn't just say, you will be paying this rate of tax. The government could ask the states to tax people and then give them the revenue, or that was about it. So the way the federal government made most of its money was by customs charges. So being the collector of the Port of New York was an incredibly powerful position and patronage, and Chester Arthur got it. But when Hayes came in to power after the Grant administration on a little bit of civil service reform, he fired Chester Arthur. But Chester Arthur wasn't bad at the job. He was just seen, because he was an associate of Conklin and the New York Machine, as a corrupt stalwart. After this, he was made chairmanship. He went back to law practice and was chairmanship of the New York Republican Party for a while, where he managed more patronage, ensured that New York candidates were all funded, showed himself to be a good administrator once again. This is a key theme. Arthur was a great administrator. In 1880, after General Garfield beat U.S. Grant for the presidency, he felt it was important to find a stalwart who would accept the vice presidency. Now, by the way, stalwarts is the name for the Grant faction that was anti-civil service, So, after much deliberation, they turned to Chester Arthur. Now, had this just been where Arthur's story ended, he'd be another Vice President Charles Dawes, except without the cool rant against the filibuster. But they win in a very close election. After winning, Garfield runs a kind of lame campaign that's basically like, we're no different from the Dems on economic matters, but hey, the Democrats shot your dad. Pay no attention that Winfield Scott Hancock is a Union general himself who was against slavery. But, as we all know what happens, Benjamin Gitlow pops a cap in Garfield's lower right shoulder, and Garfield dies after 3 months. Arthur, who was hanging out in Albany with his friend Rosalind Conklin, is quickly told of Garfield's assassination and asks the Supreme Court Justice of the State of New York to swear him in as president. He did not get along well with Garfield's cabinet, though asked them to stay in office for the first year for continuation of government. So this was the Arthur cabinet. If you notice, they all resign very quickly. And Garfield did an interesting thing here. He didn't replace a lot of the resigned people with stalwarts. He replaced them with all sorts of factions from the Republican Party. The only person to stick it out the whole time was really Robert Todd Lincoln, son of Abraham Lincoln. So, yes, those are the stalwarts. This is Grant, giving all the people their patronage jobs. And also attempting some civil service reform. Arthur did sign a little bit of civil service reform, not as much as what would come later with President Cleveland. On immigration, he signed the Chinese Exclusion Act. He did rebuild the Navy, because at this time our Navy was in tatters. And Garfield sort of said, well, if you guys want to have a, sort of manifest some destiny more, it might be nice to have a brand new Navy. He did do some civil rights stuff to ensure African Americans could, he worked with some more populist white West Virginians and Virginians to get this done. continued the American Indian Wars because, of course, but after the presidency, he was in ill health. He made sort of a wistfully waffly attempt to seek the Republican nomination in 1884, but eventually declined, citing ill health. He left the presidency and legitimately died 3 months later while on vacation. He was said to be in a bit of ill health during the presidency, too. Um, there was a trip to Florida in which he felt horrid the entire time. But when he made a trip out to Yellowstone, the nice mountain air and the relaxing camping made him feel better. So, as legacy, I'd say Arthur was sort of one of those, wow, that guy was actually more impressive than what they thought. You know, you're thinking you were getting a big, corrupt guy, but instead, he actually tried to do the right thing. I mean, he did offer Conklin positions because he felt he had to, but it was like, would you like to be a Supreme Court justice? I know you'll turn this down, but I'm offering it to you. So, I guess you could say that's doing the right thing. But, anyways, thanks for watching. I hope to see you again soon. If you're feeling generous, like, comment, and share with a friend. Bye bye.